The P-38 Lightning was born out of necessity during the early years of World War II, at a time when the United States Army Air Forces, USAAF, were rapidly expanding and needed a versatile and long-range fighter to counter the Axis powers. As the war escalated across multiple theaters of combat, the USAAF required a fighter that could not only engage enemy aircraft, but also provide bomber escort, carry out reconnaissance missions, and strike key targets deep behind enemy lines. The existing fighter designs of the time, while effective in some areas, lacked the range and versatility needed to support these increasingly complex operational requirements. In this critical period, the P-38 was developed to fill a gap in American aviation that would ultimately prove essential to the success of the war effort. The development of the P-38 Lightning can be traced back to the visionary mind of Clarence Kelly Johnson, the head of Lockheed's design office. In 1939, as the USAAF sought to develop a new fighter to meet the demands of a global war, Johnson and his team at Lockheed were tasked with designing a revolutionary new aircraft. The goal was clear: create a fighter capable of performing a variety of roles in the fast-approaching conflict. The challenge, however, was formidable. The designers faced significant hurdles in balancing speed, range, firepower, and maneuverability, all while considering the aircraft's ability to perform multiple combat roles. Unlike previous fighters that prioritized agility and lightness, Johnson and his team took a bold step by opting for a heavy twin-engine design. This unconventional approach, dubbed the twin-boom design, was a departure from the single-engine fighters that had dominated aviation up to that point. The decision to use twin engines was driven by the need for additional power and the desire to extend the aircraft's operational range. The P-38 was designed to be a high-altitude interceptor, capable of reaching targets far behind enemy lines. At the time, most of the U.S. Army Air Force's aircraft had limited range and endurance, which constrained their ability to conduct long-range missions. The solution was to give the P-38 the ability to carry a heavy load of fuel, giving it the range necessary for missions across the vast expanses of the Pacific and European theaters. The engineers also had to consider the aircraft's performance in multiple roles. The P-38 needed to be fast enough to engage enemy fighters, yet stable enough to escort bombers over long distances. Additionally, it had to be able to carry bombs or perform reconnaissance missions if necessary. The combination of twin engines, an advanced supercharger system, and a sleek airframe design allowed the P-38 to achieve high speeds and perform these roles with unparalleled efficiency. Johnson and his team made several key decisions that set the P-38 apart from its competitors. First, they opted for a pressurized cockpit to protect the pilot from the extreme conditions encountered at high altitudes where the P-38 would operate. They also incorporated a distinct twin-boom tail design, which not only contributed to the aircraft's aerodynamic performance, but also provided ample space for the large engines and additional fuel tanks. The design, while initially met with skepticism from military brass and pilots, would ultimately prove to be a game-changer in aerial combat. Despite the boldness of the design and the potential advantages of the P-38, many were initially skeptical of the aircraft's unique appearance. The twin-boom design, which featured two large engines mounted on separate booms extending from the central fuselage, was unlike any fighter seen before. It was large, heavy, and bulky, which led some to believe it would be slow and unwieldy. Its wide wingspan and twin-engine configuration made it appear cumbersome compared to the sleek, single-engine fighters that dominated the skies at the time. However, the P-38's designers were undeterred by the early criticisms. They knew that the plane's speed, firepower, and adaptability would make it an indispensable asset once the issues of flight handling and engine performance were addressed. The twin-engine layout provided stability and greater control at high altitudes, and the aircraft's ability to fly at greater speeds than its contemporaries made it well suited for intercepting enemy bombers. Its design also allowed for the inclusion of a formidable weapons loadout, including 4 50-caliber Browning M2 machine guns and a large-caliber cannon, making it a deadly opponent in combat. The P-38's adaptability was also a key factor in its success. Its ability to perform multiple roles, from long-range fighter escort to ground attack to reconnaissance, was one of the main reasons it became such an important part of the USAAF's arsenal in the Pacific. While the P-38 was not as agile as some of its contemporaries, its ability to sustain high speeds, carry out precision strikes, and engage at longer ranges than other fighters made it a versatile and effective platform in a variety of scenarios. The aircraft's performance soon silenced many of its critics. As the P-38 was deployed in combat in the Pacific theater, its strengths became increasingly apparent. During its first operational missions, the P-38's ability to cover vast distances, carry a heavy payload, and engage enemy aircraft with deadly precision quickly established it as a valuable asset. One of the aircraft's most significant early victories came during the attack on the Japanese fleet at the Battle of Midway in 1942, where the P-38 seconds performed admirably in the long-range bombing and escort roles. In the subsequent years of the war, the P-38 would go on to prove itself as one of the most capable and versatile fighters in the USAAF's arsenal. It was used in a variety of roles, including bomber escort, reconnaissance, ground attack, and long-range strikes against enemy infrastructure and supply lines. Its success in these missions solidified the P-38 as one of the most important aircraft of the war, contributing to key victories in the Pacific, Europe, and North Africa. Despite its initial reputation as a disposable or unfit design, the P-38's performance under combat conditions proved that it was anything but. The aircraft's combination of speed, firepower, and adaptability made it a key player in the Allied war effort. As it gained in popularity among pilots, it became a symbol of American ingenuity and industrial might, and it played a crucial role in the eventual victory over the Axis powers. The P-38 Lightning, once seen as an unlikely candidate, ended up being one of the most effective and enduring aircraft of World War II. This chapter sets the stage for exploring the further development of the P-38 Lightning and its critical role in some of the most pivotal operations of the war, including the legendary Operation Vengeance. The following chapters will delve deeper into the P-38's role in defeating the Axis, its innovations, and the remarkable feats it achieved in combat. The P-38 Lightning's combat debut in the Pacific theater would solidify its reputation as one of the most effective and versatile fighters of World War II. While its design had already been validated through testing and initial operational missions, it was in the heat of battle against Japan's formidable air forces that the P-38 truly came into its own. The aircraft's speed, firepower, and long-range capabilities would allow it to excel in multiple roles, from bomber escort to ground attack, reconnaissance, and, most famously, in the hunt for Japan's most feared military leader, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. The first P-38 combat missions took place in the Pacific during the latter half of 1942, a year after its initial production. Its assignment was clear: assist in defending American forces against Japan's expanding military presence, particularly in the Solomon Islands, New Guinea, and the Philippines. As the U.S. began to shift from a defensive strategy to one of offense, the P-38 was put into action to support ground forces, secure air superiority, and escort bombers deep into enemy-held territory. The P-38's long-range capabilities were a game-changer for the USAAF. While other aircraft could cover only short distances before requiring refueling, the P-38's twin-engine design and large fuel tanks gave it a substantial advantage. Its operational range exceeded that of many of its contemporaries, allowing it to perform extended sorties and deliver precision strikes against Japanese targets. In missions over the Pacific, P-38 seconds often flew over vast stretches of water, engaging enemy fighters and bombers while simultaneously offering air cover for bombers striking at Japanese positions. Its ability to fly at high altitudes further contributed to the P-38's success. The twin-engine, turbo-supercharged configuration allowed it to outperform many of Japan's aircraft in altitude engagements. The P-38 also excelled in the role of bomber escort, unlike other fighters, which struggled to keep pace with the long-range bombers of the U.S. Army Air Forces. The P-38 was able to accompany the bombers for long distances without losing effectiveness. As the U.S. Air Force began its campaign of strategic bombing against Japan, the P-38 became one of the primary escorts, ensuring that bombers reached their targets safely. One of the most iconic missions of the P-38 Lightning came on April 18, 1943, during Operation Vengeance, a daring attempt to assassinate Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Japan's naval strategy during the early years of the Pacific War. Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor and the Battle of Midway, was scheduled to fly from Rabaul to a meeting in Bougainville. Intelligence reports intercepted his flight plans, and it was determined that he would be flying in a heavily escorted aircraft, making it a nearly impossible target. However, a bold plan was put into motion by the U.S. Army Air Forces, and a squadron of 12 P-38 Lightnings was assigned to the mission. Under the leadership of Major John W. Mitchell, these P-38 seconds would intercept Yamamoto's plane as it flew along the coast of New Britain and Bougainville, hoping to catch him in a rare moment of vulnerability. The pilots selected for the mission were among the best, with experience in high-altitude engagements and long-range combat. The P-38 was the ideal aircraft for the job. Its speed, long range, and heavy armament made it a formidable adversary for any aircraft, including the heavily escorted bombers Yamamoto would be flying in. The mission began with a grueling 4-hour flight over the Pacific, as the P-38 pilots closed in on their target. The moment of confrontation came over the island of Bougainville, where the American pilots spotted Yamamoto's aircraft, a Mitsubishi G-4M Betty bomber, flanked by several Zeke fighter escorts. The P-38 seconds dove from the clouds, attacking the bombers from above and below, their 8 50 caliber machine guns and one 20mm cannon unleashing a torrent of fire. In the ensuing chaos, Yamamoto's bomber was hit. The aircraft went down in a fiery explosion, and Admiral Yamamoto was killed along with several members of his staff. The successful mission was hailed as a significant victory for the U.S. and became a symbol of the P-38's power and versatility. It was a perfect demonstration of how the aircraft could perform at the highest level, striking a key figure in the Japanese war machine at a critical moment in the war. The success of Operation Vengeance helped cement the P-38's status as a key weapon in the Pacific. Throughout the rest of the war in the Pacific, the P-38 continued to excel in its various roles. As the war in the Pacific progressed, the U.S. Army Air Forces continued to rely on the P-38 for long-range interdiction missions, bombing strikes, and ground attack operations. The aircraft's adaptability made it a staple in battles from the Solomon Islands to the Philippines, where it proved its mettle in multiple combat environments. In addition to its combat prowess, the P-38's long range allowed it to serve as a reconnaissance aircraft. Equipped with cameras, the P-38 seconds conducted high-altitude reconnaissance flights over enemy territory, providing critical intelligence to U.S. forces. The aircraft's ability to operate far from its base allowed it to gather crucial information about Japanese movements and fortifications, contributing to the success of subsequent ground and naval campaigns. In total, the P-38 played a pivotal role in the Pacific, scoring over 1,000 victories against Japanese aircraft and providing invaluable support to ground forces during critical campaigns like the Battle of Saipan and the Battle of Iwo Jima. Its legacy was not only defined by the number of kills but by the way it adapted to various combat needs, from the interception of enemy bombers to the strafing of Japanese positions. The P-38 Lightning's performance in the Pacific theater was nothing short of extraordinary. Born out of necessity and designed to meet the diverse demands of modern warfare, the P-38 quickly became one of the U.S. Army Air Force's most dependable fighters. Its success in long-range engagements, bomber escort, reconnaissance, and ground attack made it an indispensable tool for the U.S. during the war. The P-38's most iconic moment, Operation Vengeance, highlighted its unique combination of speed, firepower, and range. allowing it to take down one of the most influential leaders in Japan's military hierarchy. The Lightning's adaptability and powerful design became the benchmark for future American fighter aircraft, and it earned a respected place in aviation history as one of the most versatile fighters of World War II. As the P-38 continued to prove its worth throughout the war, it not only helped shape the outcome of key battles, but also forever altered the trajectory of aerial combat. The P-38 Lightning's combat debut in the Pacific theater would solidify its reputation as one of the most effective and versatile fighters of World War II. While its design had already been validated through testing and initial operational missions, it was in the heat of battle against Japan's formidable air forces that the P-38 truly came into its own. The aircraft's speed, firepower, and long-range capabilities would allow it to excel in multiple roles, from bomber escort to ground attack, reconnaissance, and, most famously, in the hunt for Japan's most feared military leader, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. The first P-38 combat missions took place in the Pacific during the latter half of 1942, a year after its initial production. Its assignment was clear: assist in defending American forces against Japan's expanding military presence, particularly in the Solomon Islands, New Guinea, and the Philippines. As the U.S. began to shift from a defensive strategy to one of offense, the P-38 was put into action to support ground forces, secure air superiority, and escort bombers deep into enemy-held territory. The P-38's long-range capabilities were a game-changer for the USAAF. While other aircraft could cover only short distances before requiring refueling, the P-38's twin-engine design and large fuel tanks gave it a substantial advantage. Its operational range exceeded that of many of its contemporaries, allowing it to perform extended sorties and deliver precision strikes against Japanese targets. In missions over the Pacific, P-38 seconds often flew over vast stretches of water, engaging enemy fighters and bombers while simultaneously offering air cover for bombers striking at Japanese positions. Its ability to fly at high altitudes further contributed to the P-38's success. The twin-engine, turbo-supercharged configuration allowed it to outperform many of Japan's aircraft in altitude engagements. The P-38 also excelled in the role of bomber escort, unlike other fighters, which struggled to keep pace with the long-range bombers of the U.S. Army Air Forces. The P-38 was able to accompany the bombers for long distances without losing effectiveness. As the U.S. Air Force began its campaign of strategic bombing against Japan, the P-38 became one of the primary escorts, ensuring that bombers reached their targets safely. One of the most iconic missions of the P-38 Lightning came on April 18, 1943, during Operation Vengeance, a daring attempt to assassinate Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the architect of Japan's naval strategy during the early years of the Pacific War. Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor and the Battle of Midway, was scheduled to fly from Rabaul to a meeting in Bougainville. Intelligence reports intercepted his flight plans, and it was determined that he would be flying in a heavily escorted aircraft, making it a nearly impossible target. However, a bold plan was put into motion by the U.S. Army Air Forces, and a squadron of 12 P-38 Lightnings was assigned to the mission. Under the leadership of Major John W. Mitchell, these P-38 seconds would intercept Yamamoto's plane as it flew along the coast of New Britain and Bougainville, hoping to catch him in a rare moment of vulnerability. The pilots selected for the mission were among the best, with experience in high-altitude engagements and long-range combat. The P-38 was the ideal aircraft for the job. Its speed, long range, and heavy armament made it a formidable adversary for any aircraft, including the heavily escorted bombers Yamamoto would be flying in. The mission began with a grueling 4-hour flight over the Pacific, as the P-38 pilots closed in on their target. The moment of confrontation came over the island of Bougainville, where the American pilots spotted Yamamoto's aircraft, a Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber, flanked by several Zeke fighter escorts. The P-38 seconds dove from the clouds, attacking the bombers from above and below, their 8 50 caliber machine guns and one 20mm cannon unleashing a torrent of fire. In the ensuing chaos, Yamamoto's bomber was hit. The aircraft went down in a fiery explosion, and Admiral Yamamoto was killed along with several members of his staff. The successful mission was hailed as a significant victory for the US and became a symbol of the P-38's power and versatility. It was a perfect demonstration of how the aircraft could perform at the highest level, striking a key figure in the Japanese war machine at a critical moment in the war. The success of Operation Vengeance helped cement the P-38's status as a key weapon in the Pacific. Throughout the rest of the war in the Pacific, the P-38 continued to excel in its various roles. As the war in the Pacific progressed, the U.S. Army Air Forces continued to rely on the P-38 for long-range interdiction missions, bombing strikes, and ground attack operations. The aircraft's adaptability made it a staple in battles from the Solomon Islands to the Philippines, where it proved its mettle in multiple combat environments. In addition to its combat prowess, the P-38's long range allowed it to serve as a reconnaissance aircraft. Equipped with cameras, the P-38 seconds conducted high-altitude reconnaissance flights over enemy territory, providing critical intelligence to U.S. forces. The aircraft's ability to operate far from its base allowed it to gather crucial information about Japanese movements and fortifications, contributing to the success of subsequent ground and naval campaigns. In total, the P-38 played a pivotal role in the Pacific, scoring over 1,000 victories against Japanese aircraft, providing invaluable support to ground forces during critical campaigns like the Battle of Saipan and the Battle of Iwo Jima. Its legacy was not only defined by the number of kills, but by the way it adapted to various combat needs, from the interception of enemy bombers to the strafing of Japanese positions. The P-38 Lightning's performance in the Pacific theater was nothing short of extraordinary. Born out of necessity and designed to meet the diverse demands of modern warfare, the P-38 quickly became one of the U.S. Army Air Force's most dependable fighters. Its success in long-range engagements, bomber escort, reconnaissance, and ground attack made it an indispensable tool for the U.S. during the war. The P-38's most iconic moment, Operation Vengeance, highlighted its unique combination of speed, firepower, and range, allowing it to take down one of the most influential leaders in Japan's military hierarchy. The Lightning's adaptability and powerful design became the benchmark for future American fighter aircraft, and it earned a respected place in aviation history as one of the most versatile fighters of World War II. As the P-38 continued to prove its worth throughout the war, it not only helped shape the outcome of key battles, but also forever altered the trajectory of aerial combat. While the P-38 Lightning's contributions to the Pacific theater were widely celebrated, its role in the European theater was equally crucial. The aircraft's versatility, long-range capabilities, and firepower made it indispensable to the United States Army Air Forces, USAAF, as they sought to gain air superiority over Nazi Germany and its allies. The P-38's involvement in the European theater, particularly in the strategic bombing campaign, further established its reputation as a multi-role fighter capable of taking on a variety of missions. From long-range bomber escort to ground attack and tactical reconnaissance, the P-38 first entered combat in Europe in 1943, initially serving as a long-range escort for the heavy bombers that were being used in the Allies' daylight strategic bombing campaign. The Allies, particularly the British Royal Air Force, RAF, and the USAAF, had been struggling to protect their bombers from the Luftwaffe's formidable fighter defences. In order to sustain an effective bombing campaign over Nazi-occupied Europe, it was clear that long-range fighter escorts were needed to protect the bombers on their raids. The P-38 was chosen for this task due to its ability to fly long distances without refueling, which was critical for deep penetrations into enemy territory. The aircraft's twin-engine design, combined with its turbo-supercharged engines, allowed it to maintain high performance at altitudes where other fighters struggled. The Lightning's ability to fly high, fast, and for long distances made it ideal for the role of bomber escort. The P-38's first mission in the European theatre came on June 11, 1943, when it was used to escort B-17 Flying Fortress bombers during a raid over France. The P-38 seconds quickly proved their worth. As the bombers flew deep into enemy territory, they encountered heavy resistance from Luftwaffe fighters. The P-38 pilots, many of whom were still relatively new to combat, engaged the enemy with a mixture of surprise, skill, and the raw power of their aircraft's 50 caliber machine guns and 20 mm cannon. One of the key advantages of the P-38 was its ability to perform in high-altitude engagements. The German fighters, such as the Messerschmitt Bf 109 and the Focke-Wulf Fw 190, were powerful in their own right but struggled to match the P-38's performance at higher altitudes. The American fighter's turbocharged engines allowed it to maintain full power at altitudes up to 30,000 feet, an advantage that became evident during the first encounters with the Luftwaffe. On these early escort missions, P-38 seconds quickly made their presence felt. The aircraft's high speed and ability to sustain fire at long ranges made it an effective counter to the Luftwaffe's fighters. German pilots, who had grown accustomed to dealing with faster and more nimble Allied fighters, were initially caught off guard by the P-38's robust design and sustained firepower. In the first months of combat, the P-38 achieved significant success in defending bombers, though it also faced its own challenges. While the P-38's role as a bomber escort was vital, its versatility allowed it to excel in other roles as well. As the war progressed, the P-38 was increasingly used for tactical reconnaissance, a role that was vital for providing critical intelligence to the Allied forces. Equipped with cameras and often flying alone or in small formations, the P-38 seconds would conduct high-altitude reconnaissance missions over enemy-held territory. The aircraft's speed and long range allowed it to cover vast areas of enemy land, capturing detailed photographs of enemy installations, troop movements, and strategic targets. These reconnaissance missions proved invaluable to Allied commanders. The P-38 seconds provided crucial intelligence for planning airstrikes, ground attacks, and even invasions. One of the most important contributions the P-38 made to the Allied war effort was in its ability to provide real-time intelligence that allowed commanders to make informed decisions on the battlefield. In addition to reconnaissance, the P-38 also played a significant role in ground attack missions. Armed with rockets, bombs, and its powerful machine guns, the P-38 could be used to strike German positions, factories, and supply lines. The aircraft's ability to deliver both precision strikes and sustained fire allowed it to wreak havoc on the German war machine. Its long range meant it could strike targets deep behind enemy lines, disrupting supply chains and weakening the enemy's ability to wage war. One of the P-38's most notable roles in ground attack came during the Allied invasion of Normandy in June 1944. The aircraft was used to provide air superiority, protect landing zones, and engage German tanks and armored vehicles. In the weeks following D-Day, P-38 seconds, along with other Allied aircraft, launched a relentless assault on German positions in Normandy, helping to pave the way for the successful advance of Allied forces. The P-38 Lightning's most notable contribution in the European theatre, however, came in the air battles against the Luftwaffe. As the Allies ramped up their bombing campaigns over Germany, the Luftwaffe responded with increasingly desperate efforts to defend the skies over Germany. The P-38 seconds were called upon to defend against German fighter attacks, particularly the formidable Messerschmitt Me 262, the world's first operational jet fighter. In many ways, the P-38 was well suited for this task. The Lightning's powerful engines and superior performance at high altitudes made it an ideal adversary for the German jets. In fact, several P-38 pilots scored victories over Me 262 seconds, proving that even the advanced German jets were vulnerable to the P-38's devastating firepower. The Lightning's success in these engagements helped turn the tide in the air war over Europe, with the P-38 performing admirably in long-range escort and bomber defense. The Luftwaffe's ability to protect its skies diminished. The ability to consistently deliver devastating blows to German fighters and bombers contributed significantly to the eventual Allied victory in Europe. By the time the P-38 Lightning had completed its combat tour in Europe, it had proven itself as one of the most versatile and effective aircraft of World War II. Whether escorting bombers, providing tactical reconnaissance, or engaging in ground attacks, the P-38's ability to adapt to multiple roles made it indispensable to the Allied war effort. Its success in combat, particularly in the air, battles over Europe, solidified its legacy as a crucial asset in the defeat of Nazi Germany. While the P-38 Lightning proved to be a formidable asset in the European theatre, its most iconic and transformative role was in the Pacific theatre. The unique conditions of the Pacific, vast expanses of ocean, island-hopping campaigns, and the relentless need for long-range fighter coverage played perfectly into the hands of the P-38. Designed for speed, power, and endurance, the Lightning would become the key to the United States' strategy of defeating Imperial Japan. The P-38's role in the Pacific was critical in achieving air superiority over the Japanese and paving the way for the successful Allied advance toward Japan's homeland. The aircraft's versatility, endurance, and firepower would make it the weapon of choice for a series of key victories, from defending against Japanese aircraft to conducting daring and strategic strikes behind enemy lines. The P-38 first entered combat in the Pacific in 1942, just as the United States began its counteroffensive following the attack on Pearl Harbor. At this stage in the war, the USAAF needed an aircraft that could not only defend against Japanese fighters, but also perform long-range reconnaissance and attack missions in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean. With limited air bases and long distances to cover, the Lightning's long-range capabilities made it invaluable. One of the P-38's early successes came in the Battle of the Solomon Islands, where the aircraft was used as a bomber escort and in anti-shipping operations. The P-38's twin-engine design allowed it to fly farther and faster than many of its contemporaries, and its heavy armament made it a formidable opponent for both enemy aircraft and surface vessels. The P-38's 20mm cannon and 50 caliber machine guns were capable of inflicting massive damage, especially to the heavily defended Japanese cargo ships and warships that operated in the region. In one of the P-38's most significant early engagements, pilots from the 339th Fighter Squadron successfully attacked and sunk a Japanese transport ship, marking the first of many instances where the aircraft would prove its effectiveness in the anti-shipping role. These missions helped weaken Japanese naval supply lines and disrupt their ability to resupply their forces in the Pacific, significantly contributing to the Allied effort. The Pacific's air superiority and the rise of the ace, the P-38's reputation in the Pacific was further solidified as it became the backbone of American fighter forces in the region. Its combination of speed, agility, and firepower made it particularly effective in combat with Japanese fighters, such as the Mitsubishi A6M0. While the Zero was a highly maneuverable and dangerous aircraft at low altitudes, the P-38's superior performance at higher altitudes and in longer engagements made it the perfect counter. The aircraft's role in gaining air superiority over the Japanese was critical to the success of the Allied island-hopping campaign. P-38 pilots quickly became some of the most celebrated aces in the war, scoring numerous kills against Japanese aircraft. The P-38's success in dogfights was largely due to its speed and its ability to sustain prolonged high-speed engagements, giving it a distinct advantage in outpacing and outmaneuvering Japanese aircraft at higher altitudes. One of the most famous P-38 pilots, Major Richard Bong, became America's highest-scoring air ace of World War II, with a total of 40 confirmed kills. Bong's success was not only a testament to his skill as a pilot, but also to the superior capabilities of the P-38's combat. The aircraft's twin-boom design, which had initially been met with skepticism, proved to be highly effective in terms of maneuverability and stability in the air. Its robust construction also allowed it to absorb damage that would have incapacitated other aircraft, a crucial advantage when facing enemy fire. Perhaps the most dramatic and significant mission involving the P-38 inches the Pacific came in April 1943, when a small group of P-38 seconds was tasked with a mission to intercept and kill Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto, the mastermind behind the attack on Pearl Harbor. The mission, known as Operation Vengeance, was one of the most high-stakes operations of the Pacific War and a pivotal moment in the conflict. Yamamoto, who had been a key architect of Japan's military strategy, was traveling by plane to visit Japanese forces on the island of Bougainville. Intelligence had intercepted his flight plans, and American commanders saw this as a rare opportunity to eliminate the Japanese leader. The task of carrying out the mission fell to the 339th Fighter Squadron, which used the P-38 to fly more than 400 miles into enemy territory to intercept Yamamoto's plane. The operation was fraught with risk. The P-38 pilots, under the command of Major John W. Mitchell, faced a long flight over enemy waters, flying at low altitudes to avoid detection. Upon spotting Yamamoto's aircraft, the P-38 pilots engaged in a high-speed attack, shooting down the plane and killing the admiral. The success of this mission was a significant boost to Allied morale and dealt a devastating blow to the Japanese command structure. The P-38's role in this operation cemented its place in the history of the Pacific War and demonstrated its versatility in executing precision strikes behind enemy lines. As the war continued, the P-38's role in the Pacific became even more vital. The aircraft was increasingly used in long-range strike missions, including attacking Japanese airfields, naval bases, and infrastructure in preparation for the final Allied push to Japan. Its ability to conduct these strikes deep behind enemy lines allowed Allied forces to weaken Japanese defenses before the arrival of ground forces. The P-38 also played a significant role in escorting bombers, ensuring that heavy bombers could safely reach their targets without fear of Japanese fighters. The aircraft's ability to remain operational even in the harsh conditions of the Pacific theater made it a reliable asset throughout the war. By the end of the war, the P-38 had accumulated more than 1,000 confirmed kills in the Pacific, and its pilots had played a crucial role in the final Allied victories. The aircraft's ability to operate in a variety of roles, from bomber escort to ground attack to reconnaissance, made it one of the most effective and versatile fighters of World War II. The P-38 Lightning's success in the Pacific theater was a testament to its versatility, endurance, and firepower. From its early missions in anti-shipping operations to its pivotal role in the death of Admiral Yamamoto, the P-38 proved itself as one of the most effective and deadly aircraft of World War II. Its legacy as the disposable plane that ended up winning the air war is a fitting tribute to the aircraft's role in achieving Allied victory in the Pacific, and it remains a symbol of American ingenuity, resilience, and strategic superiority. As the P-38 Lightning continued to prove itself in combat, its value as a strategic asset grew exponentially. The Pacific theater, with its sprawling distances and islands scattered across vast stretches of ocean, posed significant logistical challenges for Allied forces. In this environment, the P-38 became an essential tool, not just for air superiority, but also for the execution of long-range missions that would shape the final stages of the Pacific War. The aircraft's design, which allowed it to carry out multiple roles, from long-range reconnaissance to bombing strikes, made it indispensable to the Allied strategy. It was an aircraft that embodied the concept of fighting on your terms, a hallmark of U.S. military doctrine that would ultimately tip the balance of power in favor of the Allies. The P-38's strategic importance in the Pacific was grounded in its remarkable range and endurance. Unlike many of its contemporaries, the Lightning could cover vast distances over open ocean without the need for constant refueling. With a range of over 1,000 miles when carrying external fuel tanks, the P-38 could travel long distances to attack key targets and return safely to base, something that other fighters could not do as efficiently or as effectively. This long-range capability made the P-38 an ideal choice for missions deep behind enemy lines. In an era when Japanese forces were entrenched in heavily fortified positions across the Pacific Islands, the ability to strike at distant targets was crucial. From attacking Japanese supply lines to ambushing enemy aircraft in remote locations, the P-38's reach made it a critical part of the U.S. strategy to weaken Japan's hold over the Pacific. The island-hopping strategy was central to the U.S. approach to defeating Japan. Rather than engaging in costly battles for every island held by the Japanese, American forces focused on capturing strategically important islands while bypassing others. This approach required efficient logistics and precise air support to cut off enemy supply lines and prevent reinforcements from reaching the islands in Allied hands. The P-38 was key to the success of this strategy. Its ability to operate across large expanses of ocean, providing reconnaissance and air support, was vital in keeping Japanese forces from regrouping and resupplying. The Lightning's long-range capabilities also allowed it to scout ahead of ground forces, providing real-time intelligence and keeping Japanese aircraft at bay. One of the most notable examples of the P-38's role in the island-hopping campaign was its involvement in the Battle of Saipan in 1944. As U.S. Marines and Army forces launched their assault on the island, P-38 seconds from the Cephagor 15th Fighter Group were tasked with providing air cover for the invasion. The P-38's superior speed and firepower helped keep Japanese aircraft from interfering with the landing forces, while its ability to strike targets on the ground proved invaluable in softening up the Japanese defenses. The P-38's success in the Pacific had a profound psychological impact on the Japanese. Throughout the early stages of the war, Japan had viewed the United States as an underdog, relying on conventional strategies that often underestimated American industrial capacity and ingenuity. However, the Lightning's performance in combat would challenge these assumptions and change Japanese perceptions of American military power. In particular, the P-38's effectiveness in countering the Japanese A-6M0 fighter and other enemy aircraft caused significant consternation within the Japanese Imperial Army and Navy. The Zero, which had previously been considered the premier fighter of the Pacific War, struggled to compete with the Lightning, which could operate at higher altitudes, outmaneuver enemy fighters in certain conditions, and sustain combat for longer periods. For the Japanese, the appearance of the P-38 over their territory was a reminder of the increasing strength of the American war machine. The massive number of P-38 seconds being produced in the United States, combined with the aircraft's effectiveness in combat, made it clear that the tide of war had turned in favor of the Allies. The psychological blow dealt by the P-38's arrival in the Pacific cannot be overstated. It was not just a new weapon, it was a symbol of the industrial might and technological superiority of the United States. As the Allies prepared for the final push toward Japan's homeland, the P-38 played a pivotal role in the battle for Okinawa in 1945. This bloody and crucial battle was one of the final steps in the Allied campaign to bring the war to Japan's doorstep. The P-38 was instrumental in achieving air superiority over the island and ensuring that Japanese reinforcements and aircraft were kept at bay. Okinawa was a critical strategic location for the U.S. forces, as it provided a base from which to launch the final assault on Japan. The P-38 was employed to conduct bombing raids, provide air support for ground forces, and destroy enemy aircraft attempting to defend the island. Its success in these operations helped pave the way for the eventual invasion of Japan's home islands. Following the capture of Okinawa, the P-38 was used to escort bombers on raids against Japanese targets, including the infamous firebombing of Tokyo. By now, the P-38 was a fully integrated part of the Allied Air Force, contributing to the precision and effectiveness of U.S. bombing campaigns in the final months of the war. The dropping of the atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 marked the end of the Pacific War and the defeat of Imperial Japan. Although the P-38's role in the atomic bombings was indirect, its contribution to the overall war effort cannot be underestimated. The aircraft had helped to achieve air superiority, weaken Japanese defenses, and support ground operations in the final stages of the war. By the end of the conflict, The P-38 had become one of the most iconic and effective fighters of World War II. Its adaptability, firepower, and range made it a symbol of American military innovation and the power of industrial might. It had transformed from a disposable aircraft, initially considered an experimental design, to one of the most feared and revered planes of the Pacific War. The legacy of the P-38 Lightning lived on long after the war ended. Its design would influence the development of future fighter aircraft, and its role in the defeat of Japan would secure its place in the annals of military history. The P-38 proved that even the most unlikely aircraft, when designed with the right combination of power, versatility, and endurance, could become a game-changer on the battlefield. With the end of World War II in 1945, the P-38 Lightning had firmly established its place as one of the most important and versatile aircraft of the conflict. Its combat success in both the Pacific and European theaters made it one of the most celebrated fighters of the war. But as the post-war world emerged and technology rapidly advanced, the P-38 was gradually retired from frontline service. Nevertheless, its impact on the future of aviation and military strategy would continue for many years to come. The P-38's influence went beyond its immediate contributions in the war. As one of the most innovative designs of its time, it helped shape the future of fighter aircraft, and its legacy endured in the development of later U.S. military aircraft. The experiences gained in combat and the lessons learned from the P-38's design would guide the development of more advanced, efficient, and powerful aircraft in the post-war years. Although the P-38 was retired from active combat roles in the late 1940s, its design features and lessons learned were far from forgotten. The Cold War era would see the rise of jet-powered aircraft, but many of the principles established by the P-38, such as long-range capabilities, high-altitude performance, and powerful armament, would continue to influence the next generation of American fighters. One of the key developments that emerged from the P-38's legacy was the emphasis on versatile, multi-role fighters capable of performing a wide range of missions. While the P-38 had been a jack-of-all-trades aircraft, excelling in both air-to-air combat and ground attack roles, it was the lessons learned from its operational success that informed the design of later aircraft, such as the F-86 Sabre and the F-4 Phantom II, both of which would serve as workhorses during the Cold War. The P-38's twin-boom configuration, while initially met with skepticism, would influence future aircraft designs, particularly in terms of stability and performance at high speeds. The twin-boom design made the P-38 exceptionally stable, allowing it to carry heavier payloads and more powerful engines, something that would be incorporated into newer designs as jet technology developed. One of the most significant impacts the P-38 had on future military aviation was its role in advancing the concept of the long-range fighter. During the war, the P-38 proved that it was possible to develop a fighter aircraft capable of covering large distances and engaging targets deep behind enemy lines. This concept would be carried forward in the post-war years, particularly in the development of the long-range interceptors used by NATO and other global military powers. The U.S. Air Force's long-range interceptors during the Cold War, such as the F-101 Voodoo and the F-4 Phantom II, owed a great deal to the P-38's success in overcoming the challenges of operating over vast distances. The long-range capabilities of these aircraft allowed them to conduct reconnaissance, combat missions, and patrols over massive areas, just as the P-38 had done in the Pacific and European theaters. Beyond the aircraft itself, the P-38 also left a lasting impact on the pilots who flew it. These aviators, many of whom became aces, forged a reputation for excellence that extended well beyond the war. The P-38 was no easy aircraft to master, with its unique handling characteristics and powerful armament. But for those who learned to harness its power, it became one of the most rewarding fighters to fly. Notable P-38 pilots, such as Richard Bong, Thomas Maguire, and Clarence "Bud" Anderson, became legends in their own right. Richard Bong, the highest-scoring American ace of World War II, achieved all of his victories in the P-38 Lightning. His success was due in part to the aircraft's excellent performance in high-altitude dogfights, where it could outmaneuver many of the enemy's best aircraft. The bravery and skill of P-38 pilots would go on to inspire future generations of fighter pilots, who would take the lessons of air combat learned in the Lightning and apply them to new and emerging aircraft in the years to come. These pilots not only contributed to the success of their respective air forces, but many went on to serve in leadership roles in the post-war military. Their experience with the P-38's multi-role capabilities would continue to influence the development of U.S. Air Force doctrine and fighter tactics long after the aircraft was retired from active service. By the early 1950s, the P-38 had been largely replaced by newer, more advanced jet-powered fighters, such as the F-86 Sabre and the F-100 Super Sabre. With the advent of jet technology, the piston-powered P-38, despite its many strengths, could no longer keep pace with the speed and agility of modern jet aircraft. The P-38 was gradually phased out of active service, and its last operational roles were filled by the newer, faster jets that had taken to the skies in the post-war years. However, the P-38 did not disappear entirely. Many of these aircraft were sold to allied nations or used in non-combat roles. In the United States, some P-38 seconds were retained for training purposes or as target drones for missile testing. The aircraft's legacy continued to be felt in the fighter design choices made by engineers who had once worked on the Lightning. But the P-38's combat days were over. Even after its retirement, the P-38 remained an enduring symbol of American aviation excellence. The aircraft's unique design, versatility, and success in combat helped solidify the United States' reputation as a technological and industrial powerhouse. The Lightning was a product of American innovation, and its success on the battlefield showcased the power of American manufacturing and ingenuity. Today, the P-38 Lightning is remembered as one of the most iconic and influential aircraft of World War II. Although it may no longer be in active service, its impact on the development of modern fighter aircraft and its role in the ultimate defeat of the Axis powers continues to be celebrated. The P-38, born out of necessity and skepticism, ended the war as a proven weapon of victory, a testament to the effectiveness of American industrial might and the innovation of its aviation engineers. As we look back at the history of the P-38, it serves as a reminder of how a single aircraft, designed to meet a specific need, can change the course of history. The Lightning's contributions to the war effort and its lasting legacy in the history of aviation stand as proof that innovation, perseverance, and the pursuit of excellence can lead to remarkable outcomes, even in the face of overwhelming adversity. By the end of World War II, the P-38 Lightning had already achieved legendary status, having played pivotal roles in both the Pacific and European theaters. As military priorities shifted and jet-powered aircraft began to dominate the skies, the P-38 was phased out of active duty. Yet, its impact on both aviation and military strategy would persist long after it was retired. The aircraft's versatility, its performance in a variety of combat roles, and its status as a symbol of American industrial and technological prowess left an indelible mark on the history of aviation. In the years following World War II, the P-38 continued to be an influential aircraft in the minds of engineers, military strategists, and aviation enthusiasts. Though its time in active service was short-lived, the lessons learned from the P-38's design and operational performance would help shape future developments in fighter aircraft, particularly in terms of versatility and long-range capabilities. By the early 1950s, jet technology had firmly taken hold. Aircraft such as the F-86 Sabre and the F-100 Super Sabre, powered by jet engines, quickly became the new standard for fighter aircraft, leaving the piston-driven P-38 behind. The jet era brought new challenges and opportunities for fighter design, and while the P-38's long-range multi-role abilities had been crucial in World War II, it could not compete with the speed and efficiency of the new generation of fighters. Despite being retired from frontline combat, the P-38 still found some use in other roles during the early post-war years. Some of the remaining aircraft were used for training, as target drones for missile testing, and in various air support roles. The P-38's robust design and excellent performance at high altitudes still made it an attractive option for limited non-combat uses. But by the mid-1950s, it was clear that the aircraft had been surpassed by the speed and capabilities of the new jet-powered fighters. The P-38's final combat operations occurred during the closing stages of World War II, and its legacy was cemented during its service in both the Pacific and European theaters. However, some P-38 seconds continued to serve in post-war conflicts, notably in the Korean War, where a small number were used for reconnaissance missions. While the aircraft was far from obsolete by the end of World War II, its slow phase-out by the US Air Force was inevitable. The P-38 was replaced by more advanced fighters like the F-86 Sabre and the F-100 Super Sabre, which were faster and more maneuverable than the Lightning, particularly with the development of jet technology. Yet, despite being relegated to secondary roles, the P-38's abilities had proven to be more than just a temporary measure during wartime. The aircraft's versatility had made it invaluable in combat, and its legacy would continue to influence both military aviation and civilian aircraft development long into the future. The lessons learned from the P-38 Lightning were not lost on the engineers and military strategists of the post-war period. Many of the principles that made the P-38 such a capable and versatile fighter would influence the designs of future aircraft. For example, the P-38's twin-boom configuration, which initially faced skepticism, was ahead of its time and showed the importance of considering stability, power, and payload capacity in fighter aircraft design. The aircraft's ability to perform a wide range of missions, air superiority, ground attack, reconnaissance, and long-range escort was a critical innovation that would be carried forward in future generations of multi-role fighter aircraft. The success of the P-38's long-range missions, particularly in the vast Pacific theater, helped solidify the importance of endurance and range in modern fighter design. These lessons would find their way into future airframes like the F-4 Phantom and F-16 Fighting Falcon, which were designed to balance multiple roles, just as the P-38 had done. One of the key takeaways from the P-38's legacy was its ability to survive under extreme conditions, whether in high-altitude dogfights, extreme temperatures in the Pacific, or extended missions far from supply lines. The P-38's engineering paved the way for subsequent designs that emphasized structural integrity and reliability traits that remain central to fighter aircraft design today. The enduring influence of the P-38 on modern aviation. Although the P-38 was phased out in the early 1950 seconds, its impact on military aviation continued to be felt well into the jet age. One of the most enduring aspects of the P-38's legacy was its role in shaping the future of multi-role fighters, which would continue to be a hallmark of modern aviation. Aircraft like the F/A-18 Hornet and the F-35 Lightning II, designed for a variety of missions from air superiority to strike warfare, owe a debt to the versatility that the P-38 pioneered. The P-38 also played a significant role in the development of the United States Air Force's strategic bombing and fighter escort doctrine, particularly in the European theater. Its ability to escort heavy bombers deep into enemy territory and protect them from enemy fighters proved the utility of fighter-bomber cooperation in modern warfare. This doctrine would continue to evolve, influencing subsequent U.S. military strategies in the Cold War and beyond. In addition to its combat legacy, the P-38 remains an icon in the world of aviation history. The aircraft's unique design and performance continue to fascinate aviation enthusiasts, and many original P-38 seconds have been preserved in museums or restored to flying condition. Its legacy as a symbol of American ingenuity and industrial might persists in the memories of the veterans who flew it and the historians who study its place in the broader context of World War II aviation. The P-38 Lightning was more than just a fighter aircraft. It was a symbol of American innovation, resilience, and the will to overcome adversity. Despite the rapid evolution of military aviation and the rise of jet-powered aircraft, the P-38's legacy endures, influencing the development of modern multi-role fighters and air combat strategies. While it may no longer dominate the skies, the P-38 will always be remembered for its critical role in securing Allied victory in World War II. The lessons learned from its design and combat service continue to shape the future of aviation, ensuring that the P-38 Lightning remains an enduring icon in the history of military flight. The P-38 Lightning's legacy transcends its military service during World War II. As the aircraft that helped shape the Allied victory in multiple theaters of combat, the P-38 remains an enduring symbol of American technological innovation, military strategy, and courage. However, its impact didn't end on the battlefields. Over the decades since its retirement, the P-38 has been immortalized in popular culture, aviation lore, and through the stories of the men who flew at it. The P-38's iconic appearance, its twin booms, sharp nose, and distinctive tail, made it one of the most recognizable fighter aircraft of World War II. Its reputation as a deadly fighter, long-range escort, and versatile weapon has inspired countless books, documentaries, and films, cementing its place in the pantheon of legendary warplanes. One of the key reasons the P-38 has remained an enduring symbol of World War II aviation is its frequent appearances in popular culture. Over the years, the P-38 has been depicted in numerous films, television shows, and documentaries, where its unique design and powerful performance have captured the imaginations of audiences. One of the most famous portrayals of the P-38 Lightning is in the film 12 O'Clock High, 1949, a movie based on the experiences of American bomber crews during World War II. Although the P-38 does not take center stage in the narrative, the film's depiction of the challenges and high-stakes missions in which American pilots took part helped cement the P-38's role as a key player in the Allied war effort. It was through stories like these that the aircraft gained notoriety among the general public and aviation enthusiasts alike. Another notable instance of the P-38's presence in popular culture is its inclusion in many war-based video games and military simulation platforms. Games like War Thunder, World of Warplanes, and IL-2 Sturmovik feature the P-38 Lightning as a playable aircraft, allowing a new generation of gamers to experience the thrill of flying one of World War II's most formidable fighters. In these games, players can take on the role of a P-38 pilot, engaging in dogfights, escort missions, and bombing runs, further solidifying the aircraft's place in aviation history. Additionally, the P-38's involvement in the daring assassination of Admiral Yamamoto has been retold numerous times in books and documentaries. The Killing of Yamamoto by Daniel Hallman provides an in-depth look at the mission and the pivotal role played by the P-38 pilots. The daring nature of the mission, which required long-range precision flying, remains one of the most remarkable chapters in the history of the P-38. The operation, codenamed Operation Vengeance, has become synonymous with the aircraft's capabilities, adding an element of mystery and intrigue to its legacy. The P-38's remarkable design and performance capabilities have earned it a special place in aviation lore. The aircraft's twin-engine configuration, paired with its long-range capabilities and robust design, made it one of the most adaptable and reliable fighters of its time. Pilots who flew the P-38 often recall their experiences with reverence, citing the aircraft's unique traits that made it an exceptional fighter. Many of these stories, often passed down through generations of aviation enthusiasts, have contributed to the aircraft's mystique and status as a revered warplane. Veterans of the Pacific and European theaters frequently speak of the P-38's remarkable endurance and ability to carry out complex missions over long distances. Its heavy armament, including 4 50-caliber Browning machine guns and a 20mm cannon, gave it the firepower to engage enemy aircraft and ground targets effectively. The aircraft's long-range capability also allowed it to escort bombers deep into enemy territory and conduct reconnaissance missions that no other Allied fighter could undertake at the time. However, it was the P-38's role in reconnaissance missions that has captured the imagination of aviation historians. The aircraft's ability to fly at high altitudes and long ranges allowed it to operate as a long-range eyes in the sky for the U.S. Army Air Forces. This allowed American forces to gain critical intelligence on enemy movements and positions, particularly in the vast expanse of the Pacific Theater. The P-38's contribution to intelligence gathering, in addition to its role in direct combat, helped to turn the tide of many engagements. Over the decades, the P-38 has become a highly sought-after aircraft for restoration and preservation efforts. Many examples of the aircraft have been painstakingly restored to their original flying condition, allowing aviation enthusiasts and historians alike to experience the aircraft as it was during its World War II service. One of the most notable examples is the restoration of the P-38 Glacier Girl. This particular aircraft was lost in a crash during World War II and subsequently buried in the ice of Greenland. In the early 1990s, a group of aviation enthusiasts embarked on a daring expedition to recover the aircraft from beneath the ice. After a remarkable effort, the Glacier Girl was successfully recovered, and the restoration process began. Today, Glacier Girl serves as a living testament to the durability and timeless appeal of the P-38 Lightning. The aircraft has been fully restored and is regularly displayed at airshows and museums, where it continues to capture the awe of aviation fans worldwide. Additionally, several other P-38 seconds are preserved in museums across the United States, including the National Air and Space Museum, the Smithsonian, and the National World War II Museum. These aircraft are carefully maintained as part of the broader effort to honor the role of the P-38 inches World War II and ensure that future generations of aviators and enthusiasts can appreciate the aircraft's contributions to history. The P-38 Lightning's legacy continues to resonate in the world of aviation, from its extraordinary combat history to its lasting presence in popular culture and aviation lore. From its design and development under Kelly Johnson's visionary leadership to its role in securing vital victories in both the European and Pacific theaters, the P-38 served as a versatile and lethal weapon that helped define the Allied victory in World War II. Even as newer technologies and aircraft took center stage, the P-38 remained an iconic symbol of American military aviation. Its influence can still be seen in modern multi-role fighters, which incorporate many of the lessons learned from the P-38's design and operational performance. Today, the P-38 is more than just a historical aircraft. It is a symbol of American ingenuity, resilience, and the ability to overcome adversity in the face of overwhelming odds. Its legacy as a pioneering aircraft continues to inspire those who study aviation history, and it stands as a tribute to the brave men and women who flew it, fought in it, and, in many cases, died in it. The P-38 Lightning's place in history is forever secure, a reminder of the power of design and determination to shape the course of history.